All right. We got lots of people coming around here. So I hope you can hear me well, because we have the audience chatting and being super excited about it.
Never mind.
I'm gonna stop my screen sharing. Okay. Okay, so I guess we're kind of 2 minutes ahead of our time. Everybody in the audience, say hi to the camera behind you.
Hey.
So the people here, we got lots of them coming online. So I guess we can begin. Hello, everyone. Ciel and me, Ivana Sen, we are formally welcoming you all to the first lecture of the IT Week 2021.
We're so happy you joined us tonight, both online and in the auditorium, to kick off this week-long celebration of technology and everything IT related.
Yes. Hello, people are gonna hear me. To put a great start to the event, we have invited not one, but two lecturers for you. They are Christian Mikhailov and Yon Kuchuklev. Chris is the co-founder and secretary of the board of the Professional Association of Robotics and Automation. And Yonko is the deputy chairman of the same association.
Christian has more than 6 years of experience in developing startup companies, working in system integrators and outsourcing companies in automation, information security, and the Internet of Things.
While Yonko, he is a technology strategist, a lawyer, a financial analyst. I'm sure his parents are proud of him. It's lovely for a host to hear the lecturer laugh, so that's a good achievement for me. He has worked on projects in London and New York, both cities I sincerely love.
The realm of robotics and automation is expanding swiftly, and Christian and Yonko will dive into it and share their knowledge, experiences, and advice for success.
So to everybody here, you can ask questions in the chat, or you can tell us. I'm talking about the people in the audience, and we can discuss them during the lecture because they would like to be interrupted. They are IT people. They love being encountered. Or we can do it after they're done with the lecture if you want to wrap this up. But now we're going to give the floor to Chris and Yonko. If you can tell us more about yourself, what does your association do to establish its goals? And of course, can you show us some of the projects that you're doing right now?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, everyone. I'm happy and excited to join here, online and offline, with all of you. So my role is in the association is to help mostly with the partnerships to organize different events in the field of industry and education. And I'm running some of the initiatives like Innovations Meet Schools, and some of the initiatives connected with our online robotics incubator that will start very soon, and I'll share more in the next few minutes.
So if I have to kind of summarize what we do, I would summarize it in supporting industry and supporting education. Now, one small insight I do have for all of you which are interested in any type of ecosystem activity, I would say it's basically transferable anywhere. Where you have an emerging technology niche or something like that, and the market is highly fragmented, you have to do a lot of bespoke projects. This is how we've operated in the last 2 years. Because we've been on the market, so to say, for 2 years. And we've done projects from, I'd say, all around the board. We've done the mapping of the clubs teaching robotics. We've connected small Bulgarian startups and large multinationals. We've done research reports. We've led some potential investors to the Bulgarian robo startup ecosystem. And now, as Chris mentioned, we're doing incubation efforts. I really think that there's not an activity possibly imaginable, an ecosystem development NGO can do that we have not either done or tried to do. So this is what I would say are wide scope of activities. Any type of activity, what is actually a render on the market, any questions you may have, we'll be more than glad to hear them and discuss them further, what we've done, what we've seen as being successful and not so successful.
So feel free to shoot us questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so generally we're gonna present a couple of trends, what we've done, et cetera, et cetera. Chris, I'd like to, we did not actually discuss who's gonna start, but we are gonna do this right now in front of you. So that you can see that we're really good on doing things on our feet, so to say, and doing bespoke projects, as I previously said.
Janko, if you'd like, I can start with a few examples how robotics and 3D printing, for example, are connected, to show some live examples from the business. I prepared a few slides. I hope you can see them.
Yep.
Okay, so one of the examples is connected with 3D printing and how company that produces 3D printing stuff use collaborative robot in order to load and unload the material from the 3D printers. Here, what you can see is that typically the staff in the factory usually work 8 hours per day, 5 days a week. But with this collaborative robot from Universal Robots, they can their factory maximize their workload 3 or 4 times, and such a collaborative robot costs 5 times less than the typical industrial robot. The idea of the collaborative robots are to work hand with hand with the employees of the company, despite if we are talking about manufacturing or pick and place operations. So another project connected with robotics is and 3D printing is that you can typically use a 3D printer to manufacture this end-of-arm tooling. This is the last piece that you put in the robot in order to make sure that you do like pick and place operations or typically industrial operations. So the idea of this end-of-arm tooling is to 3D print it, and instead of waiting for your end-of-arm tooling to come on your door, you can do it, you can 3D print it for a few hours and make sure that you're effective twice and even more effective in your job. Another project, so another project connected with robotics is this robotic hand that learns by itself. The idea is that you use it and there's artificial intelligence that learns by itself how to be more effective. So those are several examples in the field of robotics and how robots can help us in our daily life or our business initiatives. Going back to Bulgaria, as Janko said, we have several initiatives, one of them educational. This is education or innovation meet schools, where we help Bulgarian schools to learn more about innovations in our daily life and how to we meet high schoolers with successful entrepreneurs in the field of robotics and automation, 3D printing, IT industry. The idea here is to show them how they can, what are the professions of the future and what type of skills should they learn in order to be successful. So this is how typically such initiative looks like offline, but the pandemic, it looks like the pandemic gave us like a hard stop, and we can do it only online. So what's the reason to do educational activities? The reason is to help kids work on projects like Animoto. Animoto is the first Bulgarian collaborative robot that is built by Giga Automata. This is a Bulgarian company co-founded by Georgi Georgiev and Georgi Arabadziev. And this is the first robot that from Bulgaria that can be used for pick and place operations. The robot can pick and place sizes up to 5 kilograms on 1 meter distance and can be used in different factories. So yeah, I will talk more about how to achieve success in the robotics sector later on. So I'm giving the stage to Yonko right now.
So let me just share my screen as well. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, so just for like a conversation kicker, I'd say I'd like to present 2 trends which are related to robotics. And I think that you as business students need to kind of know your way around them, because I think that they can have a huge impact going forward on the field of logistics and manufacturing. What I am talking about first, this year we've had robotics in some interesting applications. For example, we've had kind of a small boom in microfactories. So what is a microfactory? I suppose many of you know that for like more than a century, for example, the most economically efficient way to build a car is the assembly line, where basically the more you build, the more you invest, the more economies of scale, the cheaper it is for you to produce. And basically that was the only way in many industries, I'd say. What is happening nowadays? Now, you can see a picture of one of the most interesting, at least for me, microfactories, where the robots you see actually are used to assemble an electric vehicle. Here is the founder. It's a picture, again, from the same factory. And you have the founder of the company really pioneering this microfactory concept, where he says that whereas Henry Ford pioneered the assembly line, and this was the only way in the industry going forward, it's not going to require a whole bunch of capital, a whole bunch of workers for you to produce something such as a car, any type of garment, or any type of consumer good. It's going to require smart machines, but more importantly, smart people. So this is a really, I'd say, new development, which is just coming around. So it's going to be maybe 3-5 more years when we see more micro factories around the globe. Basically, the idea is that in the past you had like the plant of General Motors in the United States or the plant of Toyota in Japan, whereas with the micro factories you would have more factories around any point in the globe, in Africa, Asia, South America, Eastern Europe, you name it. Basically, if we have to kind of compare the 2 models, the traditional manufacturing versus the micro factory, you would require far less capital. Since you require less capital, obviously, your profits can be expected to be higher from the straightforward. Some manufacturing experts have said, and I personally agree with this, you would have fewer risk, of course, and you would have more easily, you would have the ability to customize your products so that they're fit for your customer. Think of it as a way of involving the customer in your design process. So it's, I'd say those micro factories, which are really enabled by robots, are changing the business model in which some manufacturers are operating. Basically, easy to implement with lower break-even volumes, lower delivery time. This is basically what's happening. And if I kind of have to graphically represent this, we have the microfactory approach versus the traditional factory approach. With the microfactory, you can go either directly to the end user or to your retailer. And what do I mean by that? So an interesting example I actually read is a company producing t-shirts, which instead of making a large factory and making it stock lists and storage lists and et cetera, it made a microfactory with a lot of robots, a lot of autonomous technologies, and gave all of its customers an app. Through this app, you could design your dream t-shirt, your design blazer, basically anything which the company could make. And then as long as you order at least 500 in terms of volume of whatever product you desired, then it would ship it directly to you for, I think the term for most stuff was 3 days. So this is how a microfactory enables your whole business to operate in a different manner, rather than to going through holding your goods in the as an inventory, going through a distributor, then to a retailer, and then getting to the end users. You could bypass at least one part of the value chain and go directly to your end user. This is mostly used for example, if your microfactory is close to your end users, you would rather go direct. If your microfactory, for example, is in Bulgaria and your customers are in Poland, then you may use a retailer. But this is an example really how the use of robots and technologies are changing manufacturing today. This is I've tried to because I know that most of you are pursuing business degrees, so I'm trying to look in the robotics sector from the perspective of how you change your profit margins, how the value chain changes, and how the overall business model and economies of scale do change. I'm not gonna go through fully the slides for drivers. What are the drivers of this? I think that basically all of you know that any solution which offers eSIM distribution is high profit and basically has low setup costs, is really attractive on the market nowadays. And same goes for the benefits. I think that I mentioned most. One thing I didn't mention is the difference in scaling. Basically, you scale a traditional factory by producing more of the same, more of the same, more of the same. Whereas you would scale a microfactory by replicating it in more spots. This is a core difference as well. Now, the other thing I'd like to point out as a huge trend are the so-called micro fulfillment centers. We actually, I was present on this conference a couple of years ago in London, where we discussed the future of fulfillment, the top industry trends, and everyone was about e-commerce, digitalization, inventory accuracy, and et cetera, but I really do think that this is the year where we saw how this would play out in practical terms, because behind any warehouse, the type of Amazon, you really do have a lot of technologies. This slide is not meant for me to go through each and every one of them. It's just meant for you to show you that behind every smart logistics solution, there's a whole bunch of technologies ranging from the ERP to the CRM system, to any type of business intelligence, e-auction software, and et cetera, but a real life example, what's happening this year in the field of logistics and fulfillment, what I'm showing you is a micro fulfillment center. So I'm assuming that most of you have seen some of the warehouses of Amazon or the warehouses of Ocado, or if you want to be closer to home, the warehouses of eMAG in Romania. And you have a lot of employees, you have a huge space, whereas here you would have literally just one warehouse where you have the goods packaged and you do have a robot putting them on the line. You have a collaborative robot picking them, putting them in AVG, which is a term for autonomous guided vehicle. And then it delivers them directly to the person who just needs to stamp the pack and send it in and put it in the truck. This is something which is happening, and some of the logistics providers which are competing with Amazon in the States or competing with the likes of Ocado and Britman, et cetera, are trying to use this approach rather than investing in a large scale warehouse with a lot of employees, investing in a micro fulfillment center so that they can basically service their customers. And as the last note for me, which I think is really important, is that regardless of the project, no one does robotics and no one implements robots just for the sake of it. You really do this in order to make your customers happy. And despite of the fact that me and Chris are running the Robotics Association, we have always discussed whether it's the most reasonable option to go to, because, for example, this is a chart done by PricewaterhouseCoopers, which indicates what customers expect from a good experience standpoint. And for example, they do expect automation at some level, so it's important for them. They're willing to pay more for them. But depending on what your business is, for example, if you're running a private bank, as I've had some experience, for example, if you're running a private bank, then customers would most likely be interested more into human interaction and be willing to pay more for human interaction than they would be for automation and chatbot. So this is basically the last chart I wanted to show you. I'm hoping that we kind of gave you some discussion points to give. And yeah, at least for me, I'm really ready to start a more conversational type of decision, so to say, and really discuss what you're interested in, and yeah, sharing our experience.
Can we ask Elena to please mute herself? Thank you. I can do it manually later on. However, I do have a question for you guys. Do you think there can be a factory of such scale in automation in Bulgaria right now?
Yeah, actually, we have several examples of smart factory. Mm-hmm. And when we talk about smart factory, this is one of the examples for smart factories from Schneider Electric, where the level of automation of the process of automation are 70% and more. They use collaborative robots, they use AVGs, they use different types of machines in order to produce their main products. And for example, from the beginning of the COVID situation, instead of closing their factory, they had a chance to work with only 30% of human capital, of the employees, because 70% of their processes are automated.
So my straightforward answer is no. At this stage, we can, I mean, this year, for example, next year, we're probably not going to have a micro factory in Bulgaria because of the fact that at this stage, no one knows how to build it, and no one knows how to, in an economically feasible way, produce what the guys in the States produce with a micro factory like the electric vehicles. No one knows the know-how behind this. We need a couple of more years to develop in order to have those type of factories in Bulgaria. This is my modest opinion. If someone would like to prove me wrong and build a micro factory in Bulgaria with next level automation capabilities, I'd be more than welcome to help them in any possible manner.
Usually for micro factories, we need a few more years. Iancu is right, but when you talk about the level of automation, we have huge demand for it. And in order to be our economy to be successful, automation is a must.
Should we start answering the questions from the chat?
We do have a question from the chat. We're going to start with Marie first. So she asked you, do you think that the demand for developers will decrease in the future?
Well, Marie, if by the future you mean the next 10 years, I would give a straightforward answer, no.
Well, why is that?
Well, you do have a lot of, I mean, and one of the trends I'm following this year especially is the so-called no-code platforms. And I was even willing to invest in an Asian IPO, which is of a huge no-code platform. Thing is, even once you do any type of solutions which automate the work of the developers, the situation is that even more and more players enter into the field. For example, no-code platforms does not mean that anyone who utilizes them does not hire developers. You do have, even if you don't have developers yourself, you do have a vendor providing you cloud services, or a vendor providing you with a CRM or an ERP service, and et cetera, et cetera. So even by using such type of products, which I know are gaining popularity, and I know a lot of people are watching the space for automating the work of developers, even by this space emerging, it's creating really a lot of work indirectly for developers. So, I mean, unless in the next 10 years, something really radical pops up, more money is going to pour into the IT sector, more money is going to pour into the e-commerce sector. So I really don't see how we could eradicate the need for developers in such a way that the demand for this profession is going to fall in the next 10 years. I mean, I hope I was comprehensive enough with my answer.
Yeah, it sure was. I hope Marie is happy with that.
Yeah, leave a comment in the chat.
Okay, I'm gonna continue on with a question from Facebook from Christo Kubanov. I think you might know this dude.
Yeah.
What kind of intelligence do your current robots use in the economy that you have, and is it ethical to replace human workers with them? So, for lots of you majors, you have to listen up because that will be important.
Mm-hmm. So, is it ethical, for example, to replace the guys who in the 18th century were lighting the lights around the city manually with the light bulbs? I would argue yes, because of one simple fact. When human progress relies on this, then probably I would render it as ethical. Now, ethics is something which is really individual. So I wouldn't speak for everyone. I wouldn't even speak for Chris and Chris's behalf. Everyone can sort of like do their judgment, because at least my perception of ethics is that it's not always being right, but coming up with the answer yourself. So at least from my perspective, this is the answer.
I'll be happy to see more jobs to become automated when it comes to jobs that are heavy, that are dangerous, that are repeatable, and to use the human labor, the human power for something more creative, for something that add more value. For example, to become instead of moving objects from point one to point B, people can go to learn how to code, learn how to become engineers, to learn how to be teachers, etc., instead of staying in the 19th century. So there are some jobs that should be automated if we'd like to make sure that our society will progress faster and faster and become more happier.
Okay, we can continue on with the next question. Sia, would you like to tell us what Desi asked us?
Yes, of course. Our incoming question from Desi is, you mentioned that you can tell us more about your successes and some of the things that didn't turn out as expected. Can you share?
That's a tough spot, I guess.
Mhm.
Connection is breaking up. Can you hear us well?
I think, yeah. Janko,
Okay.
can you hear us?
Now I can hear you.
Perfect. That's the LBJ Wi-Fi. Sorry for having a bad flex on this, but you can carry on, guys.
Happens. Yeah, so things that did not turn out as expected, I'm gonna be really specific here with one example. Thing that often in my experience has not turned out good. It is the collaboration between business and science in Bulgaria. Even today, I was discussing such a case in the chemical industry where basically a company I work with needed some really bespoke and specific research from an institute of the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences, or at least needed access to their lab so that their chief technologist could test something. And in theory, you do have prices, you do have tariffs for using the equipment of the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences. In practice, as my friend figured today, not so much. I've seen really a lot of cases where most of you have been students in high school more recently than me, but I've seen examples where private academies want to build top-notch talent all over from the 10th grade, and you have teachers who are willing more to prepare kids for Olympiads. So a lot of the cases actually where some company has wanted to cooperate with the science sector in Bulgaria, and academics and et cetera, have turned out not successful. Even come to think of it, from my personal experience, I can really not think of a success story where businesses collaborated with the state-backed science. So this is one of the things we definitely need to improve. And even my friend said, ask a millennial or a generation Z student in Bulgaria what the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences does as innovations. If he even mentions one innovation, then that will be a huge success for them. You yourself can answer the question whether you can name one invention which was commercialized by the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences, but this is definitely one drawback I could say right off the bat we've encountered as well.
That's definitely something to consider. We do have professors here from BAN that do share the same experience, so to say. We can continue on with Diana's question that asks you, how can educational robotics be integrated with organizations or people? And what aspects can it improve?
Educational robotics should be implemented in not only schools, not in business, but in our families, in order to make sure that robotics will be a major skill in the next few years for young people in order to become successful. And what generation Z and the generations after that should learn, should know that they should become like cats. Cats are curious creatures, and curiosity is something that they need to develop. They need to have it as a mindset in order to learn new things. They should speak with more engineers and try to solve different challenges, not only from the IT perspective, but from the social perspective. No one would like to use a robot because it is a robot. They would like to use a robot because the robot is more efficient for different things. For example, the robot for the collaborative robot for pick and place operations. So educational robotics should be implemented in our society, and a good step for that is the courses from RoboPartners, from Robotica BG and etc., like ABV Academy. Those are the academies that typically help youngsters to develop their IT skills, their engineering skills, and of course, the youngsters should know that to learn mathematics is a must and should be implemented with the gamification techniques in order to not hate such a wonderful discipline. By the way, I would like to give the stage to one of our participants here, John Mikhailov. He's a nice example as one of the last year students in Neofitrilsky High School in Harmonly. So he can share his experience in the field of robotics. Hey, Jono.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Janu Mikhailov, and as Christian said, I'm last year student in Neofitrilsky High School in Harmonly, Bulgaria. I'm really glad to be with you and have the opportunity to meet all of you. First, I would like to share with you my delight in being involved in various events organized by Robotics and Automation Association. I participated in Robotics Strategy Forum 2020, where I presented the possibilities of Dovod Magician. This is a multifunctional desktop robotic arm for practical training education. It can realize functions such as 3D printing, laser engraving, writing, and drawing. I'm also CTO of a startup company named InnovaOne. We offer to the market air quality monitoring stations and have already installed 2 of them in Harmonly municipality. Currently, in partnership with Sofijska Voda, part of Veolia, we are installing drinking water quality sensors with machine learning platform. I'm also working on developing our newest project, One AI. This is an application that understands commands and completes tasks for the user. Otherwise, my interest includes programming, especially with C# and Python. I'm also a lecturer in InnovaOne's social club, where our goal is to help young people to discover and develop their strengths and talents. In partnership with Arc Academy, I also teach them how to develop video games. My next aim is to apply for university. I'm especially interested in majors such as economics and computer science. And after graduation, I really would like to give back this knowledge and my efforts in favor of community and society. And lastly, I'm 18 years old and I'm already a taxpayer. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, when Janu said taxpayer, his startup is a great success for the municipality of Harmony and for the society of Harmony, I believe. And actually, in order to help more and more students and high schoolers like Jano, we'll start our online robotics hub this month. In the end of this month, we'll open our application window in order to help students and high schoolers to develop their products in the field of robotics and automation. We'll help them with mentorship. We'll help them with infrastructure. We'll give them hardware like Arduino, Raspberry Pi, computers, and of course, we prepared for them an educational program in the field of robotics and automation. What we'd like to help them in the end is to make sure that they will present an MVP, a successful MVP in the field of robotics and automation in front of a group of investors. And this is how we would like to boost youngsters to believe in themselves and show them that they can be creators and entrepreneurs in the field of robotics.
That was quite a comprehensive answer as well. I'm sorry, who's gonna, does someone have a question in the online audience? Or no? Okay, Chrissy just wrote it down. But let's get in order because we had the question from Daria first that asks us, what's the biggest technical challenge for you guys?
Well, a really short example for me, in the fintech business, we do have a challenge I'm trying to and wrapping my brain around how to solve. It's doing customer segmentation with machine learning. And if you're wondering what exactly the challenge is, it's that our current machine learning method yields really a lot of false positives. So this is right now my top one technical challenge.
Technical challenge, well, I'm not a technical person. I'm a business person. So in terms of technical challenges, I have a lot. Yeah, but let's say mathematics is one of them.
We can all relate here. Yes, we had some nodding heads. So we have another question from a Mr. Hubanov. So he says that Yonko is the founder of Cardinal Bytes, and he wants to ask, do you use automated processes to produce protein sweets?
Well, in the production itself, not so much. And this is partially related to what I said, that building a microfactory in Bulgaria, it's hard because it requires at least a six-figure investment. This is how much robot software integration would cost in the food and beverage industry. But in the business process, we do implement a lot of stuff which make the whole order, produce, receive line be as fast as possible for the Bulgarian conditions. But hopefully one day we could implement something which is more automated in the production.
The internet broke again. Yonko, can you hear us?
Itself.
Give it a second. Give it a second.
The thing is, especially in the food and beverage,
Okay. We could. The last sentences we hear was in the industry itself. So the thing is.
Yeah, we do have some things which have to stay purely human. For example, quality control, tasting your production, tasting what you've done, seeing what is the softness, the smell. At least I am not aware how you can automate these things. So especially especially in the food and beverage industry, human-based.
Okay, that's lovely. So we have a really serious question from our president here, which I think it's kind of a question that is targeting us as well, because the way she formulated is, who would be able to join your robotics hub? Emphasis on the hub. Is it targeting youngsters only? Again, emphasis on the hub.
We do have a really wide definition for youngsters, so feel free, everyone who would like to join. Yeah, but jokes aside, when Chris mentioned youngsters, we really do implement a wide definition. So a youngster could be even someone who's 30 or more. So no worries in that aspect. We don't implement age discrimination.
Okay.
Maybe the main challenge for us will be to how to explain the courses, the robotic courses, for example, in machine vision for people above 35 years old, for example, that they already get their degree in engineering, and compared to high scores in 11th grade, for example.
Mm-hmm.
But feel free to join in the initiative. We'll open the initiative on 3rd of November on incubator.para.expert. Now the website is under construction.
Okay, thank you for this answer. We will definitely be interested in that. Now we have another question. We already touched on some things that you mentioned that cannot be automated, but our question is, it's shown in sci-fi movies that robots will eventually become advanced enough to fully be able to replace humans in every field. Do you see this as a real possibility to happen at some point in the future?
Would you like to go ahead first?
If in the future means like 50 years, no. If it means 150 years, maybe. But I can't correlate to that robots can replace humans in things like creativity or critical thinking, for example. We are very far away from that.
Well, for now, it's more of a sexy narrative for an anti-utopian movie rather than a real possibility. And do keep in mind that even in the long-term future, whether this concept can become real, we do have ways of stopping it. For example, you know that a lot of people, including Bill Gates, have started discussing robot taxes and et cetera, et cetera. So it's not going to come like that. I mean, do keep in mind that politicians would love to keep people occupied with solid rates of income, because unless you don't have the right rate of consumption, just the economy does not develop well, and politicians don't get reelected. So I'm not really able to look into a 100-year perspective, of course. But if I did, I would say that the incentive for letting robots do all the work and replacing humans are not very real. So I'm not really a fan of the idea that this can happen. But as I said, only the brightest minds in humanity, such as Stephen Hawking, Elon Musk, if you must, can look into a more than 10-year horizon. In case you can yourselves, then you're probably our type of genius. So this is my answer.
Okay, thank you. Actually, this brings to mind a different question. We've seen that some robots have become commercialized, so to speak, such as the dust cleaning robots and such, or kitchen robots, if we can consider them robots. Do you see any other major automation we can have in our household that can enter it?
The cooking robots. Yeah, this year, I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen any cooking robot videos, but they've been kind of viral in the US. So definitely cooking robots. I know that all of the Alexas and all of the Siris and et cetera, smart home assistants right now are active on the market. You would also have any smart systems which can heat water, turn on the air conditioner, close the window gaps, et cetera, et cetera. This is most of the stuff we do have, and maybe some elderly people in Japan do have humanoid robots which are used both for social assistance and for helping with small scale tasks. So literally, this is the automation I can imagine in one's home today.
Okay, thank you for this question.
I
I
can
also
add,
really wanna.
if
Oh, okay.
may I add
Yeah, yeah.
something? Yeah.
Okay.
Educational robots are one of the typical type of robots that usually entered in our households, like Lego Mindstorm, Arduino robots, and the education is full of examples using different types of robots.
Actually, on this note, I wanted to ask you, what's your opinion on robots? Do you feel like they should be humanoid, as we've seen that there's like the robot Sophia, that they're really trying to make her look like a human? Or do you think that the robots should remain robots that only fulfill specific tasks?
My answer would be kind of non-binary, depends. Because, for example, in Japan, people do love humanoid robots, so it's almost inevitable to have humanoids in Japan. But once we do talk about Bulgaria, Romania, Serbia, et cetera, people do love when the humanoid dances, do love when he performs on some type of YouTube or TikTok video. But once they have to interact with the robot, they're not so open. So kind of depends on the market, I'd say. I think that in the future, you'd have some nations which are more eager to communicate with humanoids and some who are not. So my answer would be really depends on the preferences of the nation or the market, if you would like.
There's a study that shows that when a robot becomes more and more humanoid, looking like a real person, the society becomes afraid from it. So in some cases, it's okay to use humanoids and to implement them in our everyday life. Really depends if the person believes that it will help him and he feel comfortable. For example, sex robots. Or it will feel afraid because the FBI, NCA, and other organizations can spy on him, etc. So depends.
Yeah. Okay, so we had one more question from Desi in the chat. She asked, who are your clients?
Our clients are basically listed on our website. We do have clients, members of the association, as we refer to them. We don't use this term client in our internal jargon, but we do have the large multinationals such as Festo, Ocado, Schneider Electric. We do have small scale Bulgarian startups such as the one Chris showed, Giga Automata, but we do have like over 30 companies, educational institutions, et cetera, who are our paying members and clients in your rhetoric, Desi.
Yes, that sounds very interesting. Now I want to ask if we have any other questions from the audience, both online or in the room. Now is your time to shoot. In the meantime, I would like to share that I really love that you want to really boost this practical approach to automation in young students, because this passion, if it's ignited while young, will really generate great results. In my opinion, I was similarly, I was doing math projects and things, but I had friends who did do more practical automation. They did like a robotic hand, and it was very simple. They were still in high school, but it could like, if you throw like something at it, something super light, it could catch it. That was really amazing to me, and it really showed me how interesting it can be even in high school, and I can only imagine what it is like after that. So I really like to thank you for trying to foster that in young people. This is really, really important, especially in Bulgaria, as you mentioned.
Thank you. Actually, I send a link in the Zoom where our viewers can download our annual report every year. At the beginning of every year, we look back what happened in the robotic sector in Bulgaria, and some of the sectors in the report are connected. In some of the examples in the success stories in the report are connected with education. So feel free to download it and read more about the success stories in Bulgaria.
Thank you for that. I see now that we have, I think, our last question. It's again from Mr. Hubanov.
I think we should rename him to Mr. Question Mark.
Definitely. Okay, so he asks, do robots deserve rights? Should they be treated like humans if they gain sufficient intelligence?
Out of Detroit becomes.
What we will define a human then, if we define that a robot can have a human rights?
Well, I guess this is a controversial issue as it is. I guess this goes a bit with, should AI be stopped and will the robots take over and this and that, you know, we've seen in movies. Do you think this is actually possible? Are we this close to that, or is that just the distant future, or not at all? To create intelligent enough robots so they turn against the human race as it is commonly seen in sci-fi.
My opinion, and I
Yeah.
think we're far away to be destroyed by robots. Personally, I don't believe it.
Yeah.
Well, you do need to keep in mind that, for example, countries such as Slovenia have, even in their constitution, listed the right to water, to quality water for their citizens. So human rights is something really broad. I know that the basic human rights are related to security, privacy, etc., etc. But looking at the topic in details, you do have some rights which are related to, for example, air, water, etc., quality, or if you want to dwell even deeper, the energy poverty and the right to be, for example, secured with some type of heating, etc., materials. I don't think that they're really applicable to robots. So should, even in a highly theoretical scenario, robots gain the same cognitive abilities as humans, I don't think that the framework we have for humans and human rights is adequate to address robots and their rights. So definitely something new should be able to pop up. And we're seeing right now the European Union is trying to do something like this with the AI framework by just giving basic principles. Every line of AI code should be clear who wrote it, what's its purpose. A core principle is also that everything done by AI needs to be reverted. So my feeling is that robot rights, so to say, one beautiful day need to be closer to this than to human rights. This is at least my perspective of the case.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing. This was a very fruitful discussion. I see that we have no other questions. So with this, I think we will call it a day. We would like to really thank you for taking the time out of your evening to join us and have this discussion with us. And we will look forward to what Para does in the future and if there are any opportunities for us to collaborate again.
Thank you very much for your invitation. We were happy to join.
Thanks for having us. And yeah, I mean, we do hope as well that the Bulgarian robotics sector can be a scene which is a thing which can be used for showcasing success stories, just like the IT industry and et cetera, all of the basically advanced industries you guys can think of. So yeah, again, thanks for having us.
Thank you for being here. Okay, thank you for everyone for joining as well, for being with us tonight. And we'll leave you to have a wonderful, amazing, productive week. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.